The night was supposed to be quiet, but when Bambi decided to open her mouth and spill what she claimed was the real truth about Jasmine and Yandy, the entire love and hip-hop circle went into chaos. Fans are still replaying the moment, whispering, arguing, and trying to piece together what exactly was meant by the words that slipped out. Because according to Bambi, the connection between Jasmine and Yandy isn't just casual. It's deep, it's hidden, and it's enough to shake alliances that already hang by a thread. And just when people thought they could take a breath, RayFace stepped in, making the tension hit a dangerous high. His reaction wasn't calm, it wasn't calculated. It was raw, loud, and borderline threatening. He didn't just speak, he made it clear that anybody stepping against him or his circle would regret it. The room froze, the crowd gasped, and social media lit up within minutes. Was Bambi telling the truth? Was she exaggerating for attention? Or did she just unleash the kind of secret that could break friendships, expose lies, and create the biggest fallout of the season? Bambi sat across the table with a calm smile, but her eyes carried the kind of weight that told you she wasn't about to say something light. Her voice, low at first, started to rise as she leaned closer to Zell and dropped the kind of statement that made everyone in the room shift uncomfortably. She claimed Jasmine and Yandy had been keeping a bond so close, so secret, that even the Frost family would be shaken if it ever came fully to light. It wasn't just a casual friendship, she hinted. It was a calculated connection that blurred the lines between loyalty and betrayal. Zell blinked, unsure whether to laugh it off or press for details. But before he could answer, Bambi leaned back and let out a sigh that felt more like a release of pressure than a casual breath. She said she had heard whispers for months that Jasmine and Yandy were coordinating behind the scenes, moving in ways that nobody expected. And as soon as the words left her lips, the room filled with that heavy silence people recognize when the truth feels too wild to be ignored. Fans watching couldn't help but replay her statement again and again. Was it jealousy? Was it a desperate reach for attention? Or was Bambi really exposing a thread that could unravel the entire fabric of relationships in their circle? Online chatter sparked instantly, timelines buzzing with clips, screenshots, and fan theories that multiplied by the hour. One side believed Bambi was exaggerating to stay relevant, while another side swore she had finally given voice to something that had been obvious all along. But things didn't stay quiet for long. The minute RayFace got word of what was being said, the mood shifted from tense to explosive. He didn't take kindly to the idea of secrets being spilled without warning, and his reaction was nothing short of threatening. In a heated voice that cut through every conversation in the room, he made it clear that nobody had the right to involve his name or his circle in baseless talk. Anybody got something to say about me, they better be ready to deal with the consequences, he growled, his words sharp enough to make even those far from the drama pause. People whispered, eyes darting from one face to another, waiting to see who would answer him. Jasmine, caught in the middle, shook her head with frustration. She insisted that none of it was true, that whatever Bambi was saying was just a twisted rumor meant to cause chaos. "I never said nothing about you. I never plotted with nobody," she said, her tone firm but her eyes betraying a flicker of unease. Yandy, who had been trying to maintain her calm, couldn't help but respond either. She raised her hand slightly, as if asking the room for a moment of patience before speaking. "Look, I got my own struggles. I don't have time for people making up stories about me," she explained, but the doubt was already hanging in the air. The way Bambi had delivered her words, the confidence in her tone, it was enough to make everyone at least wonder for a second if there was some truth hidden in the mess. That's the tricky part of this world. Once a rumor is out there, it doesn't matter if it's true or false, it begins to live a life of its own. Fans latch onto it, twisting and reshaping it until the original words barely matter anymore. Within hours, social media threads had turned into debates, with some people even digging up old photos of Jasmine and Yandy at events together, claiming those were the hidden receipts nobody wanted to acknowledge. Bambi, meanwhile, didn't back down. She doubled down on her claims, telling Zell that if the truth ever came fully out, the Frost family would have no choice but to admit what they had been hiding. "Everybody thinks Rasheeda been hurt. Everybody thinks Kirk been betrayed. But what if I told you they all been smiling in each other's faces this whole time?" she said, her voice steady, her tone carrying the weight of someone who believed every word she was speaking. Zell shook his head in disbelief, glancing at the cameras as if silently asking whether this was all really happening. But Bambi wasn't done. She leaned forward, again, almost whispering this time, painting a picture of late-night calls, secret meetings, and subtle gestures that could easily be overlooked by those not paying attention. "They think they slick, but you can't keep that kind of thing hidden forever," she muttered, her words sending another ripple of tension across the room. RayFace, still pacing nearby, let out a laugh that wasn't filled with humor. It was sharp, almost mocking, and it made everyone shift again in their seats. "Y'all really want to test me tonight," he said, his tone louder now. "You think talking in riddles gonna keep you safe? It won't. Anybody dragging my name or my people, they gonna learn real quick." The warning hung heavy, but instead of silencing the room, it only fueled the fire. Yandy, visibly irritated, crossed her arms and shook her head. "I don't know what's worse," she said firmly. "People spreading lies or people threatening violence over lies." Her words carried frustration, but her composure didn't break. Still, the tension between her and Bambi was undeniable, and fans watching at home could practically feel the electricity sparking through the screen. It was the kind of night where every word felt like a weapon, every gesture felt like a statement, and every silence left more questions than answers. Even those who normally avoided the drama couldn't help but glance in, realizing they were witnessing a moment that would be replayed and dissected long after the cameras stopped rolling. And that's the thing. In a world built on alliances, betrayals, and storylines that sometimes blur the line between real and scripted, one leak, one whispered secret, can shift everything. Bambi had chosen her moment to shake the table, and the fallout was already starting to show. Whispers turned into debates. Debates turned into heated arguments, and before anyone knew it, friendships were cracking under the weight of speculation. What nobody expected, though, was how quickly the night would spiral out of control once. More voices joined in, adding their own versions, their own receipts, and their own threats to the mix. What began as a single leak had already become a storm. As the night dragged on, the whispers only grew louder. One voice after another began, chiming in, each person convinced they held a piece of the puzzle that nobody else could see. It wasn't just Bambi's claim anymore. It was the ripple effect of what happens when someone shakes the table and everyone else scrambles to pick up the pieces. Aunties in the audience leaned closer, trying to catch every word, while younger fans rushed to record live clips on their phones, eager to be the first to upload them online. Social media was already boiling, and the hashtags with Jasmine and Yandy's names were climbing by the minute. Zell tried to calm things down, raising his hands and urging everyone to breathe, but his voice barely cut through the storm. Bambi sat firm, her eyes locked on Yandy, who by now had given up on hiding her frustration. "So, this is what we doing now?" Yandy muttered, shaking her head. "Making up stories because real life ain't interesting enough." Bambi shot back, without hesitation. "Girl, you know what I said. If it's fake, then why you so pressed?" Her tone was sharp, almost taunting, and the crowd let out a chorus of gasps. Jasmine, clearly uncomfortable, turned away for a moment, whispering something under her breath that only those closest could hear. But when she turned back, she raised her voice. "I don't know nobody no explanations, but I'll say this once. I ain't in no secret alliance, I ain't sneaking around with nobody, and I ain't covering up nothing for nobody." The denial sounded strong, but the problem with denying is that it never kills the rumor, it just adds fuel. Fans watching at home quickly clipped Jasmine's words, overlaying them with old videos, searching for contradictions, and asking why she sounded so defensive if there was really nothing to hide. RayFace, meanwhile, was still pacing like a caged animal. His words earlier had been threatening enough, but now he looked like he was about to explode again. He pointed a finger across the room and barked, "I said what I said. Anybody got something to do with me, they can go to sleep. Simple as that." The room erupted again. People stood up, chairs scraped against the floor, and voices rose over one another in a chorus of arguments. One side demanded proof, another side begged for calm, and through it all the energy was raw, wild, and unstoppable. Bambi leaned into the chaos, refusing to step back. "Everybody want to play innocent, but I see what I see," she shouted, her words cutting through the noise. "They don't post everything. They don't show everything. But believe me when I say they closer than they letting on." Zell turned to her with desperation in his eyes. "Bambi, you gotta know what you saying. You don't think this can mess up families, reputations, people's lives? She met his gaze without flinching. If it's the truth, then it deserves to come out, no matter who it hurts. The line landed heavy. Fans online instantly labeled it the quote of the night, turning it into captions and memes. Some praised her bravery, others accused her of stirring drama for clout, but either way, her words were everywhere. Yandy, not one to back down either, stood up from her chair and faced Bambi directly. Listen, you don't get to decide what my life looks like. You don't get to spin my story for your entertainment. You think you know me? You don't. Her voice shook slightly, but her presence filled the room. Bambi tilted her head, smirking as if the outburst only confirmed her point. Funny how the loudest one in the room always got the most to hide, she said slowly, dragging out every word like a dagger. Gasps filled the space once more, and RayFace slammed his hand down on the table, the thud echoing like a drumbeat. Enough, he shouted. You want to talk secrets, fine, but keep my people's names out your mouth. I don't care if it's true. I don't care if it's lies. Anybody stepping on this side, they better be ready to face me. The threat hung in the air like smoke, suffocating and undeniable. Jasmine's eyes widened. Rasheeda shifted uncomfortably in her seat, and Kirk avoided eye contact altogether, staring down at the table as if the answers were hidden in the wood grain. What made it worse was that nobody was sure if RayFace was bluffing or if he really meant every word. His reputation suggested he wasn't the type to throw empty threats, and that uncertainty only fueled the hysteria further. Outside the room, fans were already dissecting every detail. One fan tweeted, "The way Kirk didn't even look up tells me everything I need to know." While another replied, "Nah, Yandy too defensive. Bambi definitely onto something." The speculation was endless, and the frenzy was exactly what producers dreamed of, but cast members dreaded. The arguments stretched late into the night, with voices rising and falling like waves crashing against the shore. At one point, Spice tried to intervene, raising her voice above the crowd. "We supposed to be celebrating, not tearing each other apart," she pleaded. But even her words couldn't drown out the fire that Bambi had lit. Bambi, undeterred, turned back to Zell with a weary smile. "See, this is what happens when you tell a little bit of truth in a room full of people who built their lives on lies." The line was another dagger, and though Yandy rolled her eyes, the damage was already done. Social media didn't wait. The clip went viral within minutes, captioned with dramatic emojis and phrases like bombshell and game changer. Even hours later, the energy didn't settle. Jasmine sat with her arms crossed, visibly done with the conversation, while Yandy kept shaking her head as if trying to will the words away. Kirk whispered something into Rasheeda's ear, but the camera didn't catch it clearly, and that single, unclear moment sparked even more theories online. RayFace, on the other hand, refused to leave quietly. He stood tall, pointing at the cameras, as he declared, "Y'all think this is entertainment, but this is my life. Play with it if you want, but don't be surprised when you get burned." The final outburst was chilling, leaving the room in silence for the first time all night. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. And in that moment, it was clear that whatever Bambi had leaked was no longer just words. It was a storm with no clear end in sight. The whispers, the stares, the silent tension that filled the space. It all told the same story. This wasn't going away anytime soon. The silence after RayFace's warning was almost heavier than the shouting that came before it. Everyone sat frozen, glancing around the room, waiting for someone else to break the tension. The cameras caught every flicker of expression, every twitch of discomfort, and fans at home leaned closer to their screens as if they could somehow catch the truth hidden in those uneasy faces. Bambi didn't look shaken. Instead, she leaned back in her chair with a smirk, crossing her legs slowly like she had already won the argument. "You see," she said in a voice just loud enough to cut the silence, "when people threaten instead of explaining, that's how you know the truth hurts." The words were like gasoline on a fire. Yandy jumped up, throwing her hands in the air. "Girl, you are not about to sit here and paint me like some villain in your little story," she snapped, her voice cracking with the strain of holding herself together. "You don't know what I've been through. You don't know the battles I fight every single day. And you think you can just throw my name around like it's nothing? You're out of line." The crowd hummed, voices low but buzzing with energy. Some nodded in agreement, others exchanged skeptical glances, but nobody could deny that Yandy's outburst had shifted the room again. Jasmine, on the other hand, sat quietly for a moment, tapping her nails against the table before speaking in a low but steady voice. I don't even know why I'm entertaining this nonsense, but let me make it clear once and for all. I don't got no secret tie with Yandy, and I'm not in no hidden deal with Kirk or Rasheeda. Whatever y'all think y'all saw, you saw wrong. But Bambi wasn't backing down. So the Bahamas trip was fake? The late night calls were fake? The matching post y'all accidentally liked at the same time was fake too? She asked, arching a brow. The way she listed it all so casually made it sound like she had receipts even if she hadn't shown them. Gasps echoed through the room, and suddenly Jasmine's denial didn't feel as strong anymore. Fans online immediately started searching for matching posts, digging through old vacation pictures, and within minutes screenshots were already circulating as so-called evidence. Zell rubbed his temples, his voice weary. Bambi, do you realize what you're saying could break up families? Do you even care about the damage? Damage is already done, Bambi replied coolly. I'm not the one lying to millions of people every season. I'm just telling it like it is. RayFace let out a sharp laugh, but there was no humor in it. Nah, what you doing is playing with fire. And you keep playing, you gonna get burned, he warned, his voice dropping lower, almost growling. Rasheeda finally spoke, up her voice trembling with equal parts anger and fear. I don't know who told you what, but my marriage ain't your storyline, Bambi. You've been bitter ever since things didn't go your way, and now you want to drag me, Kirk, and everybody else into your mess. The words hit hard, but Bambi only leaned forward, her smile never fading. Oh, Rasheeda, if only it was just me saying it. But the streets talk, baby. The fans ain't blind. You can hide a lot, but you can't hide forever. The room erupted again, voices clashing over one another, and Spice once again tried to mediate. Enough, y'all. This ain't the way, she shouted, her accent thick with frustration. But nobody listened. Once secrets are spilled, they can't be put back in the bottle. Outside, the fan reaction was reaching new heights. Instagram lives were running back to back, TikTok edits were flooding timelines, and YouTube commentary channels had already begun uploading their exclusive breakdowns of the scandal. Some fans sided with Bambi, praising her for having the courage to say what everyone else was allegedly too scared to admit. Others tore her apart, calling her bitter, messy, and desperate for attention. But either way, she had won. People were talking, and the conversation was only growing louder. Yandy slammed her hand on the table, making the glasses rattle. Let me tell you something. I'm not here to play games. If you got proof, show it. If not, keep my name out your mouth, because I don't play about my reputation. The demand for proof only made fans hungrier, scouring the internet for anything that could back up or shut down the claims. One blurry photo of Kirk, Rasheeda, and Jasmine in the same restaurant surfaced. And though it was months old, it was enough to set the comment sections on fire. See, they always been cool, one fan wrote, while another replied, y'all reaching? They just happened to be in the same spot. Meanwhile, RayFace grew more agitated by the second. He pulled out his phone, waving it in the air as if ready to show something. You want receipts? I got them. But when I put them out, don't nobody cry about being exposed. The threat of receipts was enough to hush the crowd for a moment. Jasmine looked panicked, Yandy looked furious, and Bambi leaned forward like she had been waiting for this exact moment. Go ahead, she taunted. Let the world see what you've been hiding. It's about time. But instead of showing anything, RayFace slid his phone back into his pocket and smirked. Nah, not tonight. I'll let y'all sweat a little longer. That's what y'all deserve. The tease only made things worse. Now fans were convinced there really was something to hide, and speculation reached fever pitch. Hashtags like Dar Frost Family Secret and Nar Poly T trended overnight, and the pressure on everyone involved mounted by the hour. Behind the scenes, production scrambled to control the fallout, but it was too late. Once the internet got hold of a narrative, it ran wild, unstoppable and untamed. Untamed. Bambi's voice cut through again, softer this time, but no less sharp. You see, I don't even need to prove nothing. The way y'all reacting proves it for me. And she wasn't wrong. The shouting, the defensiveness, the threats, all of it looked suspicious in the eyes of fans. Even those who doubted her at first began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, she was telling the truth. As the night wound on, friendships looked more fragile than ever. Rasheeda avoided Jasmine's eyes. Kirk kept silent. Yandy stood stiff as a statue, and RayFace's anger simmered just below the surface. And through it all, Bambi sat there with that same smirk, as if she had been waiting for this storm all along. The tension in the room refused to ease. Every glance, every sigh, every whispered word carried the weight of suspicion. By now, it wasn't just about Bambi's claim anymore. It had turned into a battle of egos, reputations, and survival in a circle where even the smallest rumor could turn into a permanent scar. Jasmine finally stood up, her voice louder than it had been all night. I'm tired of being everybody's target. Every season, it's Jasmine this. Jasmine. That like I don't got a life of my own. I didn't ask to be dragged back into this mess, and I sure ain't part of whatever fantasy y'all trying to sell. She looked directly at Rasheeda, her tone sharp but tinged with hurt. And you, after all them speeches you gave about me, after acting like I ruined your family. Now they saying you been cool with me this whole time. So what was it, Rasheeda? Was all that pain for the cameras? The room fell silent again. Rasheeda's lips pressed into a tight line as Kirk shifted uncomfortably beside her. Finally, she spoke, her voice low but clear. I did feel pain. I did feel betrayal. But people change. Situations change. Maybe I forgave when nobody expected me to. But don't twist that into something it's not. Bambi leaned forward, seizing the moment. So you admit y'all been cool? Vacations, dinners, late-night talks? All that's true? Rasheeda's eyes narrowed. I admitted nothing of the sort. Don't put words in my mouth. But the hesitation, the lack of a firm denial, was enough for fans to explode online. Clips of Rasheeda's expression went viral within minutes, with captions like caught, slipping, and the truth always shows in the eyes. Yandy, exhausted from the back and forth, threw her hands up. I don't know why my name even in this. I didn't ask to be dragged into Rasheeda and Jasmine's story. If they cool, let them be cool. But don't drag me down to make your headline, Bambi. Bambi's smirk widened. Oh, but see, your name been in it from the start. Don't act like you just a bystander. You knew, and you played your part quiet, hoping nobody would notice. But I noticed. The jab cut deep, and Yandy's composure cracked. You don't know nothing about me, she snapped, her voice shaking, with anger. You want to make me your villain? Fine. But don't be surprised when the truth about you comes out too. The threat shifted the air again, and for the first time, Bambi's smirk faltered just slightly. RayFace seized the moment, stepping forward with his voice booming. This is exactly why I said what I said. Y'all feeding on lies, dragging names, starting wars over nothing. I don't care who's friends with who. I don't care who went. On what trip. But if you keep pushing, don't be surprised when somebody pushes back harder. His words weren't just a warning anymore. They felt like a promise. Jasmine's eyes widened. Rasheeda shook her head, and Kirk muttered something inaudible under his breath. The camera zoomed in, capturing every twitch, every blink, every tremor of unease. Then came the unexpected twist. A voice from the back of the room, one that hadn't spoken all night, suddenly cut through the noise. It was Spice again, but this time her tone was different. Y'all acting like you the only ones with secrets, but trust me, if all the truth came out tonight, half this room wouldn't even be able to face the cameras tomorrow. The line hit like a bomb. Gasps erupted, eyes darted, and even Bambi looked caught off guard. What you mean by that? She demanded, her confidence wavering. Spice only smiled, her lips curling into a knowing grin. Let's just say, some of y'all throwing stones when your own house is made of glass. The cryptic warning was enough to send fans into a frenzy, online. Within minutes, theories multiplied. Who was Spice talking about? What secret was she hinting at? And why did Bambi, for the first time all night, look unsettled? As the arguments continued, the room grew hotter with tension. Kirk finally stood, his voice firm but weary. This gotta stop. Everybody got something to hide, everybody got skeletons. But this right here? This ain't how family's supposed to be. This ain't how friends supposed to be. Rasheeda touched his arm, nodding in agreement, but her expression betrayed her inner conflict. Jasmine crossed her arms, refusing to soften, while Yandy paced back and forth, muttering under her breath. And through it all, Bambi sat quietly now, her earlier confidence dimmed but not gone. She glanced around, taking in every face, every reaction, before finally speaking again. Believe me or don't, it don't matter. The truth always comes out. Maybe not tonight, maybe not tomorrow, but one day. Everybody gonna see I wasn't lying. Her words were the final spark. Fans online immediately declared the night a turning point, a scene that would be remembered for years in love and hip-hop history. Hashtags exploded, blogs rushed to post recaps, and gossip sites spun theories faster than anyone could keep up. The night ended without resolution. No clear answers, no confirmed receipts. But that was the beauty of it. The uncertainty kept fans hooked, desperate for more. And as the cast slowly filed out, tension still hanging heavy, the cameras caught one last chilling shot. RayFace standing tall, his eyes burning as he muttered, under his breath, "This ain't over, not by a long shot." The line was quiet, almost lost in the chaos, but those who caught it knew it wasn't just for show. Something bigger was brewing, and everyone could feel it. When the lights dimmed and the credits rolled, the drama didn't end. It only shifted. From the room to the streets, from whispers to headlines, from speculation to obsession. The secret, whatever it was, had already done its job. It cracked alliances, stirred old wounds, and left fans begging for answers. And as the night closed, one thing was clear. The story was far from finished. And there you have it, one of the most explosive nights we've seen in a long time. Bambi's leak shook the room. Jasmine's denials only added more confusion. Yandy's frustration spilled over, and RayFace's threats left everyone on edge. Rasheeda and Kirk's silence didn't make things easier, and Spice's cryptic warning pushed the tension to an entirely new level. Fans are still divided, some saying Bambi finally spoke the truth. Nobody else dared to admit, while others believe it's all a twisted storyline meant to keep the cameras rolling. But what can't be denied is the impact. Friendships cracked, old wounds reopened, and the entire love and hip-hop circle was left more divided than ever before. The real question now is what comes next. Will Rasheeda and Jasmine finally come forward with the truth? Will RayFace's threats turn into something bigger? And did Spice really hint at even deeper secrets hiding behind the scenes? The streets are buzzing, social media is on fire, and fans can't stop debating about what's real and what's just for show. And that's exactly why this story isn't going away anytime soon. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Bambi was telling the truth about Jasmine and Yandy's shocking secret? Or was it all just another messy rumor? Did RayFace cross the line with his warning, or was he just protecting his circle? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I know this conversation isn't ending here. Make sure you hit that like button. If you enjoyed the breakdown, subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next piece of tea, and turn on your notifications, because the drama is only getting messier from here. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next.